Okay, and we are live. Hello, all newcomers, and welcome back, my fellow Eternians. As always, it's me, Emperor AP, and today I am here with our very special guest, one of our own Imperial government members, Wright of Talon himself, David Morris. Um, Today, we are here to talk about the problems with work, the issues that people face in the US and around the world with an increasingly unreliable job market, with increasing demands on their time and their mental state for increasingly little pay. So this talk, I think, will delve into topics like inflation, topics like, the ability to find work and what work means in our culture now, and, what that looks like the world over. And we'd also like to talk a little bit about what that means for the Empire of Aeternia and how we're developing, what we bring to the table as a society that is trying to transform everything about our lives, and in particular, how we work and how we get along and provide resources to each other. So that being the case, welcome, right, David. I'm going to go ahead and make an adjustment on my phone here, and let's get into it.
All right. You ready for me?
Yes, sir. Ready
All
as you
right.
are.
So yeah, I'm the Wright of Talon.
All right.
David
You
Morris.
ready for me?
I am a citizen
Yes,
of the
sir. Ready
Empire of
as you are.
Aeternia.
So yeah.
Oh, I'm getting some of a feedback on your end. A sort of
Sorry about that.
echo.
Yeah. I'm having a bit of difficulty. I have my microphone plugged into my phone there, and I was thinking it would be better to try to listen in on my computer, but that seems to actually be worse. So I'm just going to leave it on the phone there, if that's not causing too much feedback. Can you hear too much? Like if you talk now?
Testing, testing. No, I didn't hear that.
Okay, awesome. But I can hear you, so that's
Okay.
perfect. We're in it.
Yeah.
We're good. Whenever you're
All
ready,
right.
sir.
Yeah, so yeah, my name's David. I'm the Wright of Talon. I'm a citizen and government member of the Empire of Aeternia. I do a lot of work over at Talon and Vine Farm. I'm sure if you're a regular here on our Discord and you've been keeping up with the Empire of Eternia, you've seen plenty of the farm and have probably seen me once or twice. Um, Today, I just kind of wanted to have a little bit of a discussion about the workforce in the current day United States and the economy along with that. I just wanted to list some things off first to kind of give you an idea of how things have progressed over the past 26 years. I'm comparing the modern day to the year 2000, so more or less within a lot of our lifetime. Um, uh, so many of us know in the United States, the minimum wage has not increased in almost 20 years. It was 2009 the last time we saw a minimum wage increase. Um, and that was from 515 to 725, which it has remained at since 2009. Um, that is only a 41% increase in 26 years. That's not that's not good because you'll see here what a lot of the other things we're going to talk about, the price of everything else has increased a lot more than 41%. So just the value of our dollar has gone down just by that alone. Um, we could talk about the cost of the home values is something that we know have been talking about as an issue being way too expensive in the modern day. Well, to put it into numbers, the average or the median home value in the year 2000 was $119,000. Or today it's over 400,000. It's 405,000 is the median cost of a home. So comparing that to the fact the minimum wage has only increased by 41% since the year 2000. The cost of housing has increased by 239%. Or if you want to go for rent, the rent cost has gone up from $602 per month to around $2,000 per month as a median. That's 232%. So it's about the same as a housing cost, really. The household income, if you don't like the minimum wage, some people argue that the minimum wage was never meant to be lived off of. I mean, I disagree with that, but to put it into a little bit more perspective, if we're talking about more of a middle class income, when we're considering the median household income, it was $50,000, 732 in 2000. 26 years later, it's $83,000, 730, which is a increase of only 65%. So just like the minimum wage, it really hasn't increased that much comparatively to the over 200% cost in housing. Um, groceries has a little surprised me a little bit. I think the cost of housing is just making us it's just kind of wrenching our wallets of everything they're worth. But the cost of groceries has increased 93% since the year 2000. So it has still almost doubled our wage increases, but it's not quite as much as our housing costs. Um, but the point is that everything is just getting more expensive. Um, and companies and employers don't seem to want to pay people for their time, and the workforce today seems to be all about optimization. It's getting as much work out of their employees as possible, um, and not really increasing their pay at all. Increasing their pay as little as possible, um, and on top of that, there seem to be less jobs than we had in the year 2000 due to, of course, this optimization. Why hire 20 people to do the job when if I can convince 10 of them to just work a lot harder and do twice as much work so I can lay off uh, the other 10? And then we have things like automation, and not necessarily talking about AI. I don't think we've hit that AI bubble quite yet. I don't think it has caused as many layoffs as some people think. But I'm talking about automation that has existed for 20 years that has just progressed to just eliminate jobs that otherwise could have existed, and I think could have been done better by a person. When you're talking about like phone bots, and at my particular work, I unload trucks at a grocery store right now. When we're talking about at my job, if you have an issue, instead of getting on the phone with a person, you're expected to submit like a chatbot help request that you don't know if anybody ever gets around to seeing that. Where, 30 years ago, that would be a human being you'd have to call on the phone to tell about your issue, and the chances would be much higher that they'd actually address your issue. But and just to optimize and the the corporate idea, they've limited all sorts of jobs like that, or outsourced other call center jobs and things like that, um, all in the name of optimization. And the reason I wanted to discuss this today was to tie it all back into why we want to start a new country. Why people need something like the Empire of Eternia. Why they need a community of people that are interested in helping each other in significant ways, and distancing themselves from the way things run in modern society. Um, I want.
Right. Just
Do you have any
to
response
jump in on that.
for me? Yeah, if you wanted to jump in, I've said a lot,
Yeah.
so
No, I appreciate that. I just want to kind of dissect each of these topics one by one because, for our audience here, for people who may be interested in politics and economics, maybe people who are just feeling this pressure in the economy right now in their own lives. Each of these things may sound like just numbers. It's bad, but it sounds like this far off, distant thing. And so, in some of these cases, I really want to talk about situations in which I think we feel it a little bit more, and where it really starts to paint a bigger picture about this cascading downward trend in quality of life for people. For me, I think one of the most shocking things about the home price, the median home price that you talked about, was this concept that, here we're local in the state of Alabama. And so that's just one little part of this bigger trend in the United States and in the world. But the state of Alabama is an interesting case because we have a very um, a very low wage, median wage, with comparison to a lot of the rest of the country, and also a fairly cheap cost of living in each of those terms compared to the rest of the country. Housing here is lower, food costs a little bit lower, but those are pretty well rounded throughout the United States. The thing is that when you have, for example, really high when you have a high median home price around the country, that means that you have a really high median home price in some wealthier areas that may have a higher median wage. And that those people who may work those jobs, if they are able to move into different places, like here in Alabama, are able to reap the benefits of their higher wage at a significantly lower cost. And while that may sound good for those people and advantageous, oh, just move to somewhere with cheaper housing. Well, then those people have this issue where all of the people locally then have their median home pricing rapidly jumping up. So this concept of the home pricing rising sure isn't a monolith. It's not exactly the same everywhere, but the places that it's not create a huge pressure on those local communities because of an influx of people who are bringing in more of their higher median wage, their higher personal wage, and are raising these home prices and making it harder and harder for the people in that community to find housing. So then it creates an increase in houselessness. It creates a bigger strain on the job market there. It creates lots of these cascading issues that you may not see if you're just looking at these medians. So I think in addition to talking about those average statistics, it's important to look at these different geographic areas. We won't be able to cover them all at length, but it just, each of these effects has a bigger and bigger cascade that I want to point out that I think is really relevant to our conversation today.
For sure. And I didn't want to spend too much time on the statistics because I am also interested in just going through personal experiences in the workforce and trying to get jobs. I know you probably have some stories. I have a lot. I've done a lot of different work in my life. Um, but I think you kind of explained a little bit deeper, just beneath the numbers themselves, because all I was trying to illustrate is that things are getting more expensive, and I was given the numbers to show that. But yes, um, I think just to add to that, yeah, for sure, in some areas, uh, those numbers are much higher. I think Alabama is closer, actually, to that median than you'd think. I think Alabama's housing costs probably closer to like 300,000. From what I've seen, with the median being 400,000. But there are places like California is over $800,000 average housing cost. Colorado's over 600,000. So yeah, there's places that are way up there, um, and it's getting hard for everybody. Um, but if we could, I wanted to talk a little bit about personal experiences and trying to get a job. Um, I don't know how. Do you have any like specific stories to share about difficulties applying or kind of negative tactics that employers are using these days that make it more difficult to get jobs?
I would say so. So one of the things is I've been in college now for um, 8, almost 9 years now. And it has been wild because I'm in the STEM field. So it's a pretty wide range of jobs, but it's a lot of people who go to school for a long time and are trying to focus on really heavily technical jobs. And so the jobs I've had during my time in college have been STEM focused jobs in some way or another. And I've had to talk to a lot of people who are my classmates, who are my colleagues, who are
Mhm.
dealing with a lot of the same stresses in the STEM field. And this is just one aspect of the job market, but it's been incredibly demotivating for a lot of people, I think, because there are tactics that are used in the job market in general that affect STEM majors in a way that is, I think, telling to a larger conversation about education in this country. And when I say this country, I mean the United States. A larger issue in the uh, tactics that employers are using to not only try to get the cheapest wage that they can from employees, but also to kind of game the job market in general in their favor. And it can create horrible, disastrous effects. One of those things in particular is the fact that employers like to have constant job posts out there. I
Mhm.
think this is for a couple of reasons. The first, one, corporations that rely a lot on like grant money, for example, or large contracts, they generally want to be filling up their budget as much as possible. They have to show that they are growing. They have to show that they are, and this is also just for their stock prices. They have to be able to show that they are rapidly expanding, to be able to show productivity and to be able to show success. And so those indicators of success kind of create an incentive to constantly be searching for employees, for candidates for jobs, to open more job positions and to be hiring for those. This is also something that, in general, for the economy, a lot of the time when you'll watch a news station or you'll hear somebody talking about the economy in any given country, they'll be talking about the job market and how many jobs were created.
Yeah,
But the issue is a lot of that comes down to on the individual employee level, my friends, people who I care about, posting for tens, sometimes hundreds of jobs within a year, and not being able to hear back. And I think a lot of that is due to the automation you were talking about. If I'm an employer and I say, "Hey, I'm going to send out, for 5 jobs that I'm looking to hire for, I'm going to post that in as many places as I can, and I'm going to just let people try to apply." If the job market's already really tough as it is, and there are lots of people who are actively highly skilled, highly capable, there may be, 1,000 times more candidates who are applicable for that job than the amount that you may be looking for to fill the role. Those people constantly applying for that position, I can then say, well, I have my pick. It's easy for me to kind of filter these people out.
for sure.
So I'm not going to spend my HR person's time that I have to pay their hourly wage or their salary to sit and listen through and read through 1,000, 5,000 applications. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a software that goes through and look for keywords and just try to find these little things that stick out as to the relevancy for this job that I'm hiring for. And so it becomes this big problem where you'll be a qualified candidate, you'll put in for a position, and because your resume doesn't have the right keywords on it, you don't get picked up for a job. On the other hand, there are plenty of people who can similarly game a system where you can put a lot of the right keywords and not necessarily be qualified for the job, and that can get you in the door, but then doesn't get you hired. This incentive for companies to do that kind of stuff that not only hurts the employees, the people who are looking for jobs, the candidates, but also the employer. It's a large underlying problem for these people because if you spend, weeks, months, years sometimes looking for a job in your field and you have to take a job outside of your field to support yourself in the meantime, it can hurt your resume because it seems like you've had this long lapse where you weren't able to get a job in your field. So
Mhm.
employers start to look at you as though you're a less qualified candidate than someone fresh out of school. It also causes people issues where um, you don't have the capability necessarily to apply to jobs all over the country. If you're somebody like myself who put roots in here, who has family locally, you can't just pack up your bags and move to San Francisco or to Maine or to somewhere like that to pick up any job that you could possibly get in your field. And I think a lot of people face that, and they feel like, well, I took out 10,000, 50,000, $100,000 in student debt, and now I'm in this position where that degree that I got is maybe my passion, maybe something I'm super uh, passionate about and uh, uh, care about, but isn't something that ultimately lands me a job. And I know that's not just in the STEM field, but those are the headaches, those are the frustrations that I've seen from a lot of people in the STEM field. A lot of my friends, a lot of people who I look up to, who are incredible in their respective fields,
Mhm.
who can't seem to find a job because they're not good at the keywording on their resume, or the job market in their particular field is just overly saturated. With computer science, that's a big thing. In the early to mid 2000s, once the internet boom took off, everybody marketed. You're supposed to go into IT. You're supposed to go into some sort of computer-based field, some computer science, computer engineering. And now those people with programming based degrees are struggling to find jobs because of the ability to automate those jobs, to get more and more done with less and less programmers. And the market became saturated, and it's terrible to see. People feel super frustrated. But those are just a few that I have felt personally, and that I've seen other people feel. What about you, David?
I mean, you talk about specifically from the perspective of applying for jobs in the STEM field, um, but I think a lot of what's happening is affecting jobs of all kinds. The concept of an entry level job itself is eroding away, even in jobs that don't require a degree, and would typically be considered entry level, are requiring years of experience in a similar field of work. Um, they just don't want to take a chance on somebody who doesn't have any work experience anymore. Um, and then they want to pay you as little as possible for jobs where you do have a degree. Um, I think you started by talking about what I think you were talking about was called ghost jobs. Um,
Yeah,
because I don't know if you were talking about something specifically where they were like genuinely looking to hire people, or because in ghost jobs, they basically just have what are effectively fake job postings. They don't actually need anybody. It's just to have a backlog of people for when they do. Um, I actually have been hearing some people have been wanting to petition for that to be made illegal. Posting ghost jobs, or making job posts when you aren't actually hiring. Um, because that wastes a lot of people's time, and people need jobs to survive. So I just think that's a horrible thing to do. Um, I have also noticed, and here's where AI comes in for real, because earlier when I was talking about how I don't think AI has actually taken away a whole lot of jobs yet. What it is doing, it is making it more difficult to get jobs because of the you know no longer are human beings looking at your applications. A lot of the time, it's just AI scanning for keywords. Um, my personal experience, I think a couple years ago, before I started working where I am right now, I think I was applying around for jobs. I applied to a sort of construction company that focused on like building billboards, and I think changing billboards as well. Um, this was the first time I'd ever experienced this. They required a personality test along with it, like an hour-long personality test along with your application. Um, and I have no doubt that if you don't answer the questions in the correct order, and give the correct answer, that they'll have an AI, filter you out and never even see your application. Um, for something like that, I mean, to me, that was an entry level job. They I'm sure they hire with little or no experience and offer training. Um, it certainly didn't offer require like years of experience or a degree. Um, and they wanted to make you take an hour long test um, just for their application, as if your time is not important. Um, and some entry level jobs have done a thing now where they don't even do in person interviews. You basically interview yourself. You submit a video answering questions to their HR department, and they'll decide based on the video whether or not they even want to talk to you. Um, to me, that's also like really lazy and is not respectful of the person's time who's applying, because you're like, we don't value you enough to even speak to you to see if you're a good fit. So we're just going to filter you out before we ever see you, and we're going to make you interview yourself because we don't have time to interview people. So it's just stuff like that that is making it more difficult to get a job than ever. Um, these systems, something like AI that you generally would think was supposed to make life easier, is intentionally being used to make it more difficult for everybody, and in ways that I don't think even really benefits employers. I don't think in AI, I don't think AI scanning for keywords in an application is the best selection process for deciding whether or not that person's going to be a good fit for your company or a good worker. Because, like you said, the applicant can just take advantage of that system if they know about it and just use those keywords. But they could be a terrible worker. It doesn't even help the employers, but I think for years to come, there's probably going to be a lot of cope on management and higher up management trying to say how much of a good decision this has been. Um,
As long as it helps their bottom line, for sure. It's ridiculous too. Like you were, I didn't know as much about the video submission interviews. I've never experienced one of those directly, but that is crazy. You would also think that lets in like bias, right? Because you can already have like plenty of bias in the normal employment process, and there's a long history of that in labor history. But at the same time, like, you know, if I record myself and I'm, at like the public library, or I'm in like a small apartment, or I'm like, in my car or something like that, or I don't, I have like maybe just like a polo shirt on or something like that. Are you gonna judge me because of my like conditions versus if I'm like, in a big fancy house and I have like a suit on? Like,
they will.
there could be a
They
lot
will.
of bias that goes into there.
They will. Um, and I don't even want to get started on that road because it's something that I kind of confuses me. Um, where you have like the like firing at will, the at will employment states. I don't know if Alabama is one. Uh,
It is.
Probably is, yeah. Um,
It is.
I don't really understand. To me, that seems like it would conflict with discrimination laws, because you could fire someone for any reason, including a discriminatory reason, and as long as you weren't open about it being discriminatory, it's still fine. I don't understand that.
Right. Focusing on US law here, that is something that's very weird. In most circumstances, the way that US law, to my understanding, is supposed to be applied is the concept of like, you know, uh, being able to come forward with a complaint, being able to there's innocent until proven guilty, but especially in a lot of these circumstances where there's like histories of large neglect and abuse, I think these laws were meant to be put in place so that you could have, there's supposed to be like agencies, the Department of Health and Human Services and stuff like that. These departments are supposed to be able to look into like labor violations. OSHA is supposed to be able to look into labor violations. And so when you have situations like at will employment states where we can go, oh, okay, well, if you try to file something against us, or if you try to prove that we broke the law, we're going to fire you. And so, sure, you can still technically get justice, but you're going to fight a huge uphill battle
Oh
to
yeah.
do that on your own dime in the case that it even gets seen or investigated on the mountain of other potentially more obvious or transparent cases that those agencies can take while being underfunded. So it's really ridiculous. I think employers kind of know that it's fairly easy for them to get away with a lot and to protect their other employees from things like harassment cases. Their managers and their financial departments from things like wage theft. And so it's really hard to say that you have laws on the books that are meant to protect people when at the end of the day, if I'm an employer, I know I can say, oh, well, I can do things like completely stop union organizing by going up to individuals in my company and saying, hey, I know what you're doing, I'm going to fire you. And as long as you don't have active recordings of me saying specifically that I'm going to fire you for labor organizing, that, you know, it's really a long uphill battle for you to try to fight that on your own dime.
Hmm. Yeah, you go for suing them for retaliation. Yeah, but that's expensive. It'd be you'd have to like find some sort of probably organization that specifically exists to fund cases like yours. There are some that exist, but doing it on your own would be practically impossible. Um, and I
And
get
that's
yeah.
all on the goodwill of those people. Like it's all funded by, individuals as well. So if they
For
have
sure.
another case that takes priority, then you're at the mercy of this volunteer organization.
Right, and that's a big reason why unions are necessary in workforces. Um, I've been able to work for I think at least two unions in my life. Uh, One of them, and I'll be open about this. UPS warehouses have a union that exists for the employees there. However, it's from what I've heard, it's one of the weakest unions I've ever. They don't really have a lot of power. There's some unions that just have no real power anymore, where they talk about how great it was, that how hard they had to fight for your 10-minute break. So um, and then you have some, like when I was working on ships, most ship work is conducted through unions. Unions will contract with the companies that own the ships. And I think that separation between your employer and the people that exist to like vouch for you, I think that separation is really good because you need these people to fight for you, having as many rights as possible while on the job, and fight for you being paid fairly. Um, I don't know how we got to the point where we've decided that you just work these jobs that have complete control over you and what you're paid, because obviously they're not going to prioritize paying you fairly. The vast majority won't. I do have a couple examples of like companies that just happen to be run by people that are pretty decent and do care about that. Just most people who own companies don't seem to care about that.
Absolutely. There's not a ton of requirement or incentive to be good or fair to employees, and there's lots of personal incentive, and maybe even like business incentive just for the success of your company, for your company to be competitive, for you to be a bad or ruthless business owner. So for sure, I think you're right on that. Um, Continuing on these personal conversations, I think one of the things that really strikes me is um, not only like going after and applying for jobs, but when you're in jobs, the um, oh, we still good? We still connected?
Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I'm okay. There we go. I was trying to make sure we didn't lose connection. When we're in these jobs, the experience of actually working in them. I know I've had some jobs that are worse. I will say STEM jobs a lot of the time are more cushy kind of corporate jobs. So I haven't faced as much of this in those jobs, but I'm sure plenty of it exists. I also am, being a white guy, am fairly insulated from a lot of things that I'm sure happen to a lot of other people day to day in any workplace. That being the case, I would say that it is really um, interesting. Lower paying jobs, a lot of my like entry level jobs, a lot of the jobs that I took in high school, in early college, those jobs tend to have been the ones that employers know they can treat you the worst because it's easy to fill your position. And have also faced just some of the weirdest people. When I took my very first job ever during high school, it was in Gulf Shores. It was at a like little local tourist trap type shop, and the owner was this like crazy guy, this like hyper religious guy who was weirdly very like for being such a hyper religious guy, very greedy guy, very inconsiderate guy, and a guy who, if he didn't like what you were doing, would get you to stop everything you were doing so that he could fuss at you for it, and then be upset that a thing didn't get done, which is weird for like a customer facing job. A lot of what we were doing was designing and making um, um, souvenirs for people basically. And so I would have to be interacting with customers to get what they want on the souvenirs, to make the souvenirs for them and then give it back to them. And having this like weird guy standing over your shoulder that's like making the customers uncomfortable and being like, yeah, but that's my boss. Like he owns the place. I can't do anything if he's like ruining the environment for these people. Uh, Situations like that are weird and shitty. And I felt awful about that because even when I left, I knew that like, no, this is just going to be the way that this is for anybody that comes after me, and that there's not really much that can be done about that. Is terrible. Do you have
In
any
terms
similar
of like
stories?
actually fixing that problem, yeah, there's not. I gotta. Sorry, my phone is getting a little low on battery here. I gotta bring my charger over here. You're right. There's
Yes,
not a lot
sir.
that can be done to actually fix a problem like that. You like increasing like the power of unions and things like that. That'd be very difficult in today's day and age. With at least since the like 70s or so, we have just kind of eroded the way or away that power. It'd be hard to reverse by this point, but um, doing something like attorney is doing, and trying to separate from a place that plays by those rules and kind of making your own rules where people could be treated a little bit more fairly over here at Talon and Vine Farm, for example. Um, we don't have people in our pockets forcing us to treat people poorly over there. Too many people in power today uh, are experiencing that issue. There's just all the wrong people in their pockets, if you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think you're right. I think a big part of the goal of creating, you talk about creating a country, but in building a society and in all of the different facets that that means, a big part of that is how we treat people. We want to create a culture and an environment that sets a standard for people in the local Alabama community, the local United States community, and so on and so forth. Um, because I think in separating and in making ourselves distinct and a different country to that degree, it's not always about when you think of creating borders and territory and things. Those things are important. But I think what really makes the difference is that if I'm down the street, I feel like I'm in the United States, that I'm going through the same things that I may go through every day as a citizen of the United States. But when I step onto the Empire of Aeternia's territory, when I step onto Talon and Fine Farm, when I step onto the Tay, if we can build a place where people feel more comfortable, where they feel more at ease, where they feel more respected, where they can see collaboration and they can see the success of a different system, then it makes it feel better and easier to become a part of that in comparison. And it makes it feel so much worse in contrarian can do so. I want to make sure I didn't cut it out again. There we go.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The people who feel the calling to become an Eternian can come in and be an Eternian and help take part in that project of growing and developing that culture. But then also the people who are going back out into the community and are speaking just purely as Americans or Alabamians or what have you, can do so with renewed vigor, feeling like I have seen something that works. I've seen something and felt something that's real, and I want to make that change wherever I am. So I
Yeah.
think we can do it.
And if you don't mind me adding on to kind of what you were talking about, uh, as a citizen, somebody who came from the outside to be a part of a Eternia, um, I think you're a great example of what you were just talking about, the way that Eternia can make people feel when they come in. Because comparing you in a leadership position to people that I have worked for in the past, um, so say like I've noticed that a lot of like managers at jobs, especially lower paying jobs, uh, they don't know the best way to instruct people, and when it's like you're getting behind on their crazy time standards or whatever, they'll come in and be like, hey, why aren't you done yet? Why aren't you done? You were supposed to be done 20 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. And they might even throw some curses in there if they're an especially bad manager and be like cursing at you. Um, but anyway, yeah, they're basically just come in with complaints and be like, "Why aren't you done? I don't understand how this is possible. How you couldn't be done in the time frame." Uh, Now that's not really a constructive way to manage or lead somebody, right? Um, and it got to the point where even I mentioned a better alternative, and I mentioned something that it's something that you do in leadership roles that I've seen you in as being the Emperor of Eternia. Whenever you're planning something or you're relying on somebody else to get a certain job done, what you do is if they're like getting behind on expectations or whatever, you ask them like what they need to be able to get it done. What can you do, or what tools are they missing to get the job done? Yeah, how can I help basically, so that we can both make sure that this can be completed. Um, that's a much more constructive way to manage or lead somebody, because if you're asking them what can I do to help, then you can ensure that job can get done than just infinite going down the infinite rabbit hole of why isn't it not done, why is it not done, I just don't understand, why is it not done.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm grateful for you. Oh,
I think you're
oh,
good.
I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure the audio didn't cut. I'm grateful for that. I think first off, in developing Eternia, part of the issue is right. You are, as the right of Talon, you are a government member. You have been a citizen and have risen through the ranks and have taken on a lot of your own work here and have started to chart your own path and pull your own direction there. But you're not like a paid employee, right? You're not somebody who is getting a an hourly wage or salary,
All volunteer.
which is right, absolutely, a volunteer, and that's wonderful because it means that we're doing something right, something that allows somebody to take time out of their already busy schedule to add into it. But also, I think it shows me as somebody who is trying to help push forward Eternia, as somebody who leads Eternia, that that is incredibly valuable. We rely on fundamentally people to exist. The only way we have a society, the only way we have a country is if people support that and believe in that and call themselves Eternians. And so, um, in our growth and our development, part of the fundamental purpose of Eternia is to increase our quality of life, and that's something that we do together. So when Talon and Vine Farm makes money, we all make money. We all put that towards something. We all find ways to get what we need out of that and to distribute that in a way that's fair. And I think that for leadership in general, when you talk about the way that Eternia starts versus the way that a lot of other jobs and other work situations form is that here in Eternia, we are all having to put together to build the thing initially. And I'm sure there are plenty of small companies that do start off with kind of a more equitable means of organizing. But I think when you have people that come into a larger corporate structure in a job that may or may not have been managers before, who haven't been certainly in something that is as tight knit and as uh, internally developed as a country, a different country before, um, you get people who go into a position strictly for the money, who don't really care about the people around them, and who are just focused on getting a deadline done. When you look at the higher up corporate structure of a lot of companies, it's these people sitting in boardrooms thinking about the mission of the company and thinking about how to inspire their employees and thinking about how to get their profit a little bit more and how to gamify their thing or whatever. It's all these very heady ideas, and then when you get down to the level of an individual employee, it's somebody like you said who's getting told, "Hey, you didn't meet your time quota this week. You didn't meet your unit volume this week, and I'm screaming at you. I'm threatening your job." And there's no way that that makes for a productive work environment. If you showed that to the people up at the top in corporate, they would probably feel like, well, if that's happening all over, there's no way that that's as productive a system as we could be. I think those people are shielded from that in a lot of ways. But I also think that you know, it's terrible for the employee because you get into a situation where if I'm the employee whose job's getting threatened because I didn't meet my quota, I'm not focused as much on my job anymore. I don't care about what the reason I'm trying to
Yeah.
meet these quotas are. I'm looking for another job. I'm trying to make sure I have
I'm always
security.
working under
Uh,
threat, not good conditions. Yeah. If you
right,
don't mind,
right.
I need to step away for use the restroom one moment.
Oh, absolutely, not a problem. But yeah, for everybody here, I want to vamp for a little bit to say that that is a big part of what the Empire of Eternia is about. We are trying to develop that community together, and I, as much as anybody else, has to learn how to improve as a leader, how to develop environments and conditions that support that. And when we have problems, when we have issues, it affects all of us because ultimately the success or failure of Eternia impacts us all greatly. We put a lot of time and effort into it for one, but also it is what we are hoping provides us a better future, provides us that higher quality of life. So that being the case, we all have to put our different skills and talents together to know that we are making the right decisions. And when we make a decision and we're all putting forward on that, whether that's at the government level or whether that's at the citizen level, whether that's at the long-term 5-year planning level or whether that's at the weekly uh, individual gardening effort level, that is an incredible investment and an undertaking, and we're trying our best with the information we have to put something out there. And sometimes it works great. And sometimes we take a step back and say, whoa, that did not work how we wanted. We need to reevaluate everything. We need to rework things. But we do that together. And I think that's a big part of what makes me feel so confident in Eternia and so proud to be here at Talon and Vine Farm, especially with the new opportunity that allows us to be able to take citizens in, show them what we're doing here, and have them contribute in their own way. Um, as we're talking here, we have plenty of comments that we have not jumped into. I know there are a bunch of people who came in and left comments. I think some of those people may have headed out, but I know a number of you are still here, so I'm going to go ahead and read those comments. See if we can spark the conversation. Real quickly, Vivi's Tachi says, Eternia, welcome back. Thank you so much. It means a lot. Again, we're here not just with myself, but with Wright David, the Wright of Talon. He is the basically the manager, the person who oversees this farm and the development of our agricultural sector, the development of our production in general. So we are here as the government of the empire, absolutely. They said 100% copy and paste the description and requirements needed, then add to the resume. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I do think that's how a lot of people game the system. David Larson says people are letting AI answer questions. Oh, for sure. And then they said attorneys getting in trouble for using AI, giving personal info to third-party platforms. Oh, that is scary. Also, welcome Queen Gucci. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. And Dynamic, thanks for being here.
Oh, are they when they mentioned the attorneys getting in trouble for using AI? Do you mean that they're getting in trouble because they're like assumingly putting like case sensitive info into like an AI prompt, and that is by virtue of the AI having access to everything he typed in there, he's basically giving their information up?
I don't know for sure as they haven't responded. Vidisconchi, if you are here, please let us know. But I would say, I imagine that is what they're saying, right? That, a lawyer gets excited by the availability of ChatGPT, especially if you're like a case lawyer that's flooded with a bunch of cases and you've got a bunch back to back to back. So you're just like ChatGPTing answers
Actually,
to
I
legal
actually heard
questions.
something about this recently. I don't remember which um, commentator or news I was listening to, but they actually, yeah, they mentioned that some attorneys, as an alternative to a paralegal, they're just like having AI do like paralegal work for them. Another way to erase jobs from existence, right there. Um, and
Honestly.
just something so important as like the job of a lawyer and somebody handling your case with care, especially if it's like a criminal case where there's like prison time on the line. uh I just don't think that you don't want AI handling your case like that. And it's just used in so many aspects of life now. It's like normalized now for people who are in college to use AI to enhance their papers and things like that. I think that's horrible. I mean, I've done a lot of stupid stuff in school, but I never did that.
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot of friends and people close to me who are like TAs and who are, so teaching assistants and people who are a part of the education at colleges and higher institutions. Even people who are, middle school, high school teachers and stuff. And they say, yeah, people are not prepared at all to be educated in these senses because they've relied so heavily on AI now. It's so we've adopted it so quickly, and it's a very useful tool, but it becomes an issue where you can't really, and again, this is my interpretation of what people have told me. But it's hard to test people anymore on their knowledge because they're not retaining the knowledge for a long period because you don't really need to in the case that you're going to use an AI
I imagine
that
it would
has all
retain
the building
all.
blocks already in there.
if a lot of the knowledge wasn't theirs to begin with, if they've just used AI to write a paper for them, I would imagine that it was never retained at all. Um, I don't. I mean, you tell me how normalized it is, but from my perspective, as somebody who hasn't done school in 7 years, so when I went to my one semester of college, this was like 2018, 2019. They hadn't really started normalizing AI usage in college quite yet. It was the next couple years after. But you tell me, as somebody who's been in school more recently than me, uh, is it normalized? People, it's like almost expected for them to use AI to do certain things in college.
Absolutely. And again, I would say it depends on your field, right? If you are in more of a writing heavy field, I think people are going to look down on it a little bit because, if I'm an English major or I'm an art major or something like that, or maybe even a history major, you using AI specifically to put your words on paper is frowned upon. Even in the scientific community, in the STEM fields, they don't want your final paper to be written by an AI. That's not the goal.
Mm.
However, in a lot of STEM fields and in a lot of STEM education, because companies and research institutions rely now so heavily on AI to be ahead of the curve and to try and be more efficient because everybody's clawing for maximum efficiency to get their paper out a day before another group gets their paper out, or so a company can move their product deadline ahead a little bit or something.
Mm.
um, People in those cases don't care about AI use and in fact encourage AI use because, if you would take 3 days to slowly piece together parts of a problem to build up a solution, whereas you can just input all of the information and get an AI to output the answer for you in 30 minutes, you're going to go with the AI every time. You can revise quicker, you can, share it with your team quicker. It's an efficiency tool. But then when you go into classroom learning, the point of, again, this is just based off of my experience in STEM education, all of these classes that you go through is that you're building the fundamental building blocks to get to those higher research levels, those higher, uh, you know, niches in your field. And so when you have used the AI to learn those, and learn is kind of, I guess, in quotation marks, but to do your homeworks, to help you answer questions about things, you really can successfully, if you try, use AI to learn information. It's great at giving you responses that are detailed in the way that you want. But if you've been substituting it so much for a lot of your work, that is meant to teach you and meant to point out where you're wrong and meant to confuse you and have you force your way through all these headache inducing problems, then when you get to your tests and your exams or your labs where you need to actually put these things into practice, you probably won't do well because you've gotten 100s on all of your homework because the AI can answer it perfectly and solve all your problems and fix all your mistakes. But then when you take a test, you get a 15 out of 100 because it's you didn't actually know how to apply any of it.
Right. I mean, human beings, fallible creatures. We're prone to making mistakes. We are prone to addiction. I think some people are addicted to using AI in like every aspect of their life. They love it. They love talking to it. Um, how likely do you think it is that there's somebody out there who they've used AI to help them learn in their college course? How likely do you think it is that they've only used it in ways that have positively affected them?
It has to be really, really tiny. And again, this is,
They have to be thinking about it, the whole time, being like, I got to make sure I'm really learning here, really understand it.
right, right. And I want to kind of meld this into a couple different conversations. We were, this goes into education, but we also were talking about the concept of a lawyer in like a professional setting, inappropriately using AI. Queen Bougie here also brought up the concept of a medical doctor using AI in their practice and how scary that could be, not just for like HIPAA violations and stuff, but also just to treat you. You know, you're not dealing with a human's knowledge, you're dealing with an AI's knowledge. That is really concerning. I think there are probably plenty of people who feel like they would start out using AI with some ethical standards. And I'm sure that you can maintain ethical standards using AI, but I think it's really, really hard. I've heard in the past people talking about doctors specifically using Google for answering lots of medical questions. You know, you retain all this knowledge in your field throughout your schooling, but then if you are in the workplace for 10 years or so and you're working on these things that you see every day and maybe you kind of know off the top of your head, and then you get something that you learned in your schooling but you haven't had to use for a few years, the simplest, easiest solution is probably just to Google it when you need the answer right then. So you try to be ethical about your use of these things, but pretty quickly, you know, over years and years of using Google to get a lot of your information, that's where it's going to start coming from. Your ethics are going to slip a little bit because it ensures that you maintain performance in your job. So same thing in education, right? I think people who get degrees are, and this is a problem with education in general, but are overwhelmed with how much stuff they have to complete in a short amount of time in order to get their degree in a reasonable period of time. And so when you're overwhelmed with like taking 3 or 4 or 5 classes and they're all having deadlines and tests and homework to do, yeah, it's easy to think initially, theoretically, oh, I'm gonna only do it to learn, and I'm gonna do it using the best thing so I retain the information.
Mhm.
Practically, you're probably gonna slip and just start using it in a pinch.
Slippery slope. Yeah. Um, I think I don't know if I fully agree that you can use AI to, well, very rare circumstances. Yeah, can you use AI to most effectively learn something? Because I think before somebody is introduced to AI as like an informational sourcing tool, I think they need to learn how to sort through the information on the internet in an effective manner and actually find truthful information because the internet now is incredibly difficult to navigate. A lot more difficult than it was, 25 years ago. Where factual information probably wasn't as difficult to find. Um, I think nowadays people are probably going to become more trust or too trustful of the responses an AI gives them to a question. Um, I think people have kind of dropped the ability to navigate sources and factual information. Um, just
Oh,
ask the AI.
absolutely.
I'm going to trust 100% that what it says is correct. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, you and I went to school at the same time. It's it's wild because I remember in middle school, high school, getting told that like, hey, you're really gonna need to learn how to do things like get sources out of a book because the internet is so prolific and is so crazy and becoming so wild that your um, you're going to need a useful and reliable source of information like a physical book to be able to use things in an era where the internet can produce so many lies and can make it so hard to find the truth. And now I think it's we're getting one step removed from that, even where people are saying very similar to what you're saying. You know, the internet. You need to learn how to use the internet because AI are searching the internet and even more abstracting the
well,
information
I
and
think
making it
an
harder.
appropriate response to a teacher telling me that in high school anyway. You're like, I don't necessarily have to like get my information exclusively from books to know that it's true. You just have to figure out how to navigate the internet to find truthful information. and now more than ever with AI kind of obfuscating the truth. Um, I've caught you know the what specifically is the AI model that's used on like Google now, where you search up information and the AI gives you the answer before any links pop up?
Yeah, Google's is oh gosh, I'm gonna forget it. If somebody in the chat knows, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah. Is that Gemini? Okay.
Gemini. Hey, there you go.
So that's the like web
Thank
search
you, Daniel.
AI. I've caught that multiple times giving false information on something where there's like multiple versions of a story. Let's just talk about like entertainment, for example. I saw the Long Walk movie in theaters, really liked it. I had read the book years before multiple times, and I was asking the Long Walk about a question about the movie's ending, and it gave me incorrect information about the movie's ending, suggesting and the way it explained the ending of the movie was referring only to events that only happened in the book. And that's an example of the AI becoming confused with multiple sources of information coming from a book versus the movie and not knowing which belonged to which. I think the fact that AI can become confused with something so simple that on more complicated topics, if you were to ask it, about like how does the government work, what did my politician do on Tuesday? I think the AI is just going to get even more confused by all the hundreds of different sources of information it has to try to pull from to give you an answer. Makes it almost completely unreliable.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that's, I guess, just what gets me thinking more and more about that kind of abstraction, right? Because you have things that are written in books, which already, depending on like accounts and stuff, could be one step removed from the truth. But you would say that things that are published in books generally should be fairly reliable. You then have the internet, which a lot of the time can be like secondary sources of people who have read the books, who are then slightly, giving their own interpretation and doing that. And then you have these AI who are picking through the internet sources. Um, that all being the case, I think that feels like it makes our workplaces, tying it back to work, very confusing because if you were similarly getting fussed at by your boss for not producing as quickly as you could, or for you know uh, putting uh, having higher and higher standards because of these tools like AI, um, are you really able to figure out that there's a problem in what you're doing quick enough to solve it within that deadline when you're being told, oh, just use the AI, just use the AI to do all of these different things. I think it's going to cause just new bottlenecks that we haven't realized yet, or that we're just starting to realize.
Oh, the AI did my job incorrectly, but I'm responsible for the incorrect work of my AI.
Right, right. Ridiculous. Um,
Queen
so then talking. Oh, I'm
Bougie
sorry. Go ahead.
something about good thing we got Harry Potter out of the way before AI got too crazy.
That's true. That's true. Uh, yeah, I will say, media and AI stuff is a whole nother topic. There are fields in particular, like entire sections of the economy that are getting obliterated, unfortunately, because of AI, and that's a big part of work as well.
I didn't
Yeah, our
media taking entertainment opportunities. Right, because I think it's weird because jobs in entertainment isn't like a permanent job listing that you get and now you can work that for the rest of your life. Entertainment jobs are so like temporary, and so it's not that AI is permanently taking jobs here and there. It's taking
gig work.
future. Yeah, it's taking away future work that you could have had. Um, opportunities. You're completely right about that in every sense. It's doing digital art. It's doing YouTube shorts. It is more almost capable of doing like feature length films. Um, Stuff like that. That's I think that's going to be hard to avoid for creators. Things like that's like significantly cheaper than paying a bunch of people to be involved in that.
Absolutely. Well, and that also goes into, I didn't know a ton about this until a conversation with one of our mutual friends, Jet. Um, Software as a service. In talking about education earlier, when I first started college, it was before, a lot of the AI stuff came out, in the way that we use it now.
For sure.
And I used Chegg, which is a similar like homework help. It's basically a forum where people are posting answers to questions from textbooks that are really common. And so you can look up a lot of your homework solutions on Chegg. There's no reason to have that at all anymore. Like the company still exists, you can still have an account. With AI stuff being so free and easily available, there's no way you're going to get a better response from Chegg than you are from an AI that can use Chegg's resources and every other resource on the internet to pull a custom solution for you.
For sure. It's
Um,
but don't it, yeah, you also consider the like physical effects it is having on the world, like outside of just how it's affecting like things on the internet. um Talk about the data centers. That's just taking up other land that I think otherwise could have been used for better purposes. We're talking apparently data centers create like large like background noise that people can just hear in like nearby neighborhoods, and they're like, this is like bad enough to where I feel like I have to move. Um, Supposedly, it's causing pollution. I'm not sure how that's related because I don't know exactly how these data centers work, but it's having the more popular AI becomes, the more data centers we'll need, the more space they'll have to take up. It's made me think about some 20 years from now, we're going to have instead of data centers, data cities, where it's just like a city sized location of these skyscrapers that are just filled with, data center processors.
oh, absolutely. Well, and it's tough because and I have limited knowledge on this as well, but one of the proposed solutions um, to data centers has been, well, we should put them out in the ocean because that way it's further away from people. It doesn't create as many issues. And there are a number of data centers, data storage areas that are set up out in open waters. And the issue with a lot of those that I've seen in reporting is that you're having to cycle water in, you're having to do this stuff that can potentially just heat up the water itself. It's maybe not extreme on a small scale, but as you get bigger and bigger, and as you keep expanding these things, it starts to affect wildlife. The long term effects of that can be very catastrophic for the environments that they're placed in, not to mention human toll. I also think there's this concept with like affordable housing that's called like the NIMBY movement or like not in my backyard. And it's talking about people who don't want, uh, multi-unit housing, basically like apartment complexes, townhouses, anything like that, in their neighborhoods because it's going to mess up their property values and it's not something that's an eyesore. It blocks their view and things. Um, and so there's a lot of single family zoning that happens because of that. So you would think for these data centers, the people who don't want a townhouse behind their house are certainly not going to be the people who are going to let a data center move in and get
Uh,
in their area
it
and
actually
their.
reduced their property value. Uh,
Right.
or being nearby as an undesirable place to live now. Um, so if they were planning on selling their house, they're actually going to be making less money on it than they thought. But as far as like cost increases for them, it also, you know that it increases electricity costs in the area. So it does have
Tremendously.
cost increases for you. It reduces the value of your home. Um, all sorts of things.
Right. And I think that then makes it harder and squeezes people who are in lower income areas because it's easy for a data center who doesn't necessarily have to worry about their location so much as they can buy up enough land to go, oh, well, we're just going to, move to this town that is in a struggling economic situation that doesn't have a lot of jobs right now. And we're just going to buy up a bunch of people's land and bulldoze the place and set up. Or we're going to, go out into, these places that already are struggling because they're food deserts. They don't have a lot of infrastructure built up, and they don't have access to the things that they need. And we're just going to come in and put a big data center there. Um, I I think it's terrible. I do think that, the people who can afford to move are going to move, like you're saying. The people who have property that they can sell are going to get out of there, and everybody else is just stuck, and their voices don't really matter as much anymore, and that's a tragedy.
It's
We
worse.
can't just do that.
It's worse than like a Walmart coming to town. I don't think people consider it as much as they used to, but uh, people used to talk about Walmart coming to a small town as an issue. It eradicates small businesses because nobody can compete with them. At the very least, a Walmart does offer jobs, whereas the data center building right next to you probably isn't really going to have any jobs available to your town. It's just an eyesore that's increasing your cost of living and taking up space.
Oh, absolutely, and it makes it scary because a lot of these institutions, whether it's a Walmart or whether it's a data center, they're kind of all hinged on this idea of, well, we just get big enough that we are an indispensable part of the local economy when we move. So we get a lot of tax breaks, we get a lot of incentive to move there, and then we quickly try to maximize our productivity and our efficiency by figuring out how we can have the minimum number of jobs possible and keep doing that over time. So what the local economy thought was going to be this big indicator of success and this economic boom because of job creation ends up being the thing that is last on employers' minds, but like nearly last. They're trying to cut down those jobs as hard as possible.
For sure.
It's a conflict of interest immediately.
They used to it used to be something that they were whittling away at over a long period of time. I think Walmart was probably a better place to work at in 1995 than it is today. It took them some time to whittle away at the population. They're like, oh, okay, they'll work for a dollar less than we thought they'll work for. Let's see if they'll work harder for that less dollar than we thought they'd work for. And just doing that over 20, 25, 30 years, and they got us now. I think we're in late stage now.
Oh, absolutely. And so I know for those of you in the audience who may not be as familiar with some of this stuff or who feel like this is just people talking about jobs, people talking about the economy. Um, the the thing is that this cascades into a cultural effect, and I've thrown that word around a little bit, but like if you want places to be able to go and hang out in your community and to have fun, if you want the ability to feel like you don't just work all the time and you have some time off and you can spend more time, or you want access to better transportation so that you can travel more and see more and experience the world more, if you want things like better healthcare to be able to take care of yourself and the people around you, if you want fresher food, all of those things tie into this concept of a culture where we are focusing on mass production as hard as possible, focusing on reducing the number of jobs to provide as much automation and productivity as possible. trying to make things as large as possible so that, again, we can maximize that efficiency so that we can have an appearance of expanding and ever increasing growth. That is an enemy to all of those things that, in theory, we want. And individually, you may be able to snake out a path to the future that you want to some degree or another through that system. But as a group, we're trying to provide that to people in our societies overwhelmingly to try to change fundamentally what our societies are and how they operate and to give people more humanity back in their day-to-day life. That's not at all going to happen if we continue in this way, if we continue trying to push for those, economic indicators to grow.
Yeah.
We have to treat our economy and our societies fundamentally differently.
Right. I think this is one of only really two ways I could think of as a solution to the problems of today, and I think this is the most achievable. Uh, Alternatively, uh, the solution would have to be um, solving all of the problems with today United States would. I mean, you'd have to convince people to stop acting exclusively within their own self-interest, in large scale, and primarily the people with the most power. You'd have to de-incentivize them from acting exclusively within their own self-interest. And that's difficult. And I think one of the things we're doing with Eternia is instead we're opening up a space who for people who already have that incentive within themselves to do something that's a little bit more bigger than just themselves. They have the incentive already in mind to help others as well.
I completely agree. You know, the people who are some of the richest in the world, people like Elon Musk, for example, people like Jeff Bezos, these guys are egotistical. I mean, that's part of the reason that they get as wealthy as they do. But that aside, they also just want to be liked so badly. Like, if you look at their public image, they are desperate to be like celebrities and to
Right.
be
It'd be
cool and to
more
be
difficult to be
loved.
liked. I think the wealthier you get, you'd find. I imagine you'd find that the people surrounding you are all just sycophants. They don't really like you. They may like your status that you provide, money and opportunities you could provide. But the wealthier you are, pretty much nobody around you really likes you. I imagine that's a difficult aspect of it, but it does create an odd kind of person. Uh, you know, it'd be it'd be hard to find a billionaire who isn't kind of a strange person in that way.
Oh, absolutely. But I think it also gives an in a little bit, right? If we have these alternative systems that start to work, you can't, say that, okay, tomorrow the Empire of Aeternia is going to convince Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos to radically change their ways. That's not super realistic. But what is realistic is to be able to start making those effects in a smaller area. If we're able to start building momentum online with the rest of the micronational community and with these people who are trying to push in their own local communities, these organizations to make a difference. If we can start partnering with those people and working with those people and showing that there's a need for this and that there's a path forward in these ways, even small, then we can start to build those networks. We can start to make that more popular. We can show the effects of those things on people and how it may benefit their lives. And the more successful that that becomes, I think the easier and easier it is for that to become the popular ideal. Even if it's not implemented as much as we would like everywhere, it's something that we can start to grapple with and build on and push forward. And eventually, once that becomes the hype, once that becomes the thing that people are really passionate about and what becomes more of the popular person thing to do, then it becomes hard for these guys to not bandwagon onto it because They just want to seem cool and popular, and so if it fights their money to do that, I think they'd shed a little bit of it in order to be popular.
For sure, for sure. Um, Yeah, I think what we have here with Eternia is an attractive idea. I think some people, some like-minded people can already see that. I know, you're all about expanding the amount of people who know about us and trying to convince some of how good of an idea this is. Some people who maybe aren't sure yet, and that's also some of the people we're looking for who are curious and aren't sure, but have an open mind for something like this. For sure. That's a good way to think about it. And yeah, I wasn't considering that aspect of it either.
Oh, I appreciate it. And the thing that I feel like you have taught me in all this, I theoretically, right, in thinking about building a nation and a country, you need people, you need uh, collaboration. Everybody has different skills that they can put together, but really diving in on the individual and how important it is that you, David Morris, specifically are a part of the Empire of Eternia and what you contribute and what it is that is your perspective on Eternia, and what it is that Fred Gilman sees as the High Envoy, another noble in the Empire, and what his vision is and his perspective of Eternia is. As we get more and more people in, what Eternia is and what it becomes is fundamentally on you guys individually, you people, to be able to build and collaborate and connect with others. You can do that a lot better than I can just from my singular perspective. There are going to be people who align more with what you think and believe. And all of those different aspects are, I think, what allow us to showcase that we're doing something valuable. And I think that is that that culture to some degree.
I look forward to the day where we have 20, 30, 40 people and actively involved as citizens. Um, I think that the feeling of being an Eternian and what that means really grows as more people get involved. Um, uh, I think even in early stages, I feel we are now. It does sometimes. It is still a little difficult to know what that means, and we've had a lot of discussions about what the culture of Eternia is and what being an Eternian means. I think over time, as we grow, I think that becomes even more clear.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think it's cool because the more that that grows, the more that we it becomes more natural to showcase it. I I really like when we get to, and I talked about this during our last council meeting, but I really like when we get to do things like hang out around the Great Hearth, around our fire pit, and we're just kind of celebrating. We're just hanging out, we're laughing, we're joking. Moments like that are kind of personal, but they are something that I think as things get bigger, as we do more and more, will really become something that are easy to just like take a snapshot of or a little video of, and people will see that and they go, "Oh wow, this is different. This is crazy." There's those little moments that become really special.
Mhm. I'm surprised we haven't yet really gotten some good shots of us sitting around the like barrel of fire there that we've done a few times now. Um,
Mm, cooking. I'm writing it down. We're planning actively. If you're a part of the stream, you're seeing some planning in action.
Got to make sure we do it. Um, Yeah, I mean, I've thought for a long time, since I think first became a citizen over at Vitae, that it might be a fun idea sometime because that's like a bit undeveloped plot of land. It might be fun sometime to do like a camp out over there, and that could be something that you could get some content from too. I think that'd just be a fun idea.
Oh, absolutely. Camp out would be cool. I think there's some practical elements of it that we'd have to figure out because of how undeveloped it is, namely like bathroom situation and stuff. But it is a cool idea. I'm gonna write it down. I think the thing that I'm trying to figure out is like when we do these things, right? I've had this issue for a long time of trying to create an aesthetic with our social media, and it's something that I really haven't locked down. But I want to figure that out. Ideally, we would have somebody who comes into Eternia who could kind of focus on that as their role. But I think it's beneficial for us to try to develop that over time. Until then, um, I I want to be able to figure out a standard that we can kind of create that showcases our look and what we're after there. That then just becomes really repeatable. Like I feel like if we can get that down, a lot of the more successful social media platforms or channels that I've seen are doing that. They have some format, they have some formula that they go after, and they just repeat it in every bit of content that they do, and that kind of helps people to get that feeling pretty immediately. It gets it across a little easier.
Mhm. Some kind of branding, yeah, for sure. If you want more of like a vibes opinion from me, what I feel like uh, the aesthetic of Eternia is just from my time over this past year and a half. Um, Eternia has a very outdoorsy feel. Um, we do a lot of work outdoor. Vitae's undeveloped, kind of forested plot. Um, we've done a lot of like gardening and farming efforts out at Talon and Vine Farm. Um, we've helped build some planners and things like that. A lot of what I do involving Eternia is outdoorsy stuff. And we've a couple times now we've gone out to the little like pond that you have at the farm, and that's also feels very outdoorsy as we're like going through the thickets and thorns and stepping out on that log over the pond.
Yeah,
Eternia feels very outdoorsy to me. Um,
I agree. I agree, and I think that's an aspect that is really like you know, it's just an immediate lock into who we are. Like you said, those are the experiences that we're having. That's what I think a lot of us enjoy about doing this work and being here and what specifically we have to take advantage of. We are in a
is that
more rural, more outdoorsy environment.
Eternia
Um,
Eternian culture? Are we outdoors people? We enjoy the
I,
out.
I would say so to some degree, right? I also think though I want to try to learn how to pair that and that aesthetic with this this feeling of kind of the political landscape that we're in. And I know that's a little bit of a reach, but like we are in this situation where it's um, the big guy versus the little guy. Not quite like a David and Goliath, but it's this this feeling of feeling like we're in this big oppressive system that is really hard to overcome. That feels maybe a little bit dreary at times, and we find this spark of hope. We find this place here. And we're each kind of rogues to some degree in that. You know, we have come together in this organization to push back against that, to create an identity that marks us as wanting a better life and trying to push for that in these ways. And we're doing that in uncharted territory, it seems like. We're doing it in a way that is very few others have done. So I want to learn how to kind of mix those things together to absolutely have that outdoorsy view that is, again, pretty easy for us to just set up and show that we are. I do think that is captured a lot in our social media. But finding ways to just put in there that little extra of, and this is why we're doing it, and this is the contrast between what we are and who we are, and this world that maybe people can relate with and feel like that they know there's something missing there too. You know?
Yeah. Um, there's a really positive aspect to it as well. And um, even if it weren't related to Eternia, I think it's just a good idea to encourage people to get outside a lot more, get away from your cell phone little bit more. Uh, get off the internet a little bit more. And it is funny saying that while streaming over the internet. But this is something that I've been considering for a long time. I mean, it started as something to consider for myself, because I have very, very severe diagnosed ADHD. And for somebody like me who has, I have struggle focusing as it is. All this constant internet access, and you with your cell phone, the screens, um, it's not good for me. And I think there are a lot of people out there who agree that it's not good for them. And so finding ways to um, improve yourself by getting away from all that, a little bit more, getting outside, getting into nature, doing some gardening like we do over there. Um, go on some walks outside every now and then. It really is good for you. I think 2 years ago now, around the time where I started getting involved in Eternia stuff for you, just before I became a citizen, um, I got off of all of my social media except for YouTube. YouTube is the only one I still use, and that one I can tell still has a grip on me. So maybe one day I'll distance myself from that too. But yeah, that's kind of a start. If you're able to get off of most of the social media there, do yourself a favor sometimes. Um, in the long run, I might even go to downgrading to like a flip phone, to make sure I remove that cell phone from my life, so that um, what do you call it? I can't think of the word. The Anyway,
Like
that
more like minimalist or like
there, but yeah, there was anyway. Respond if you have a response there.
yeah, so I was gonna say, I really like that. You and I have talked about that aspect that technology plays in all of our lives a lot. We've talked a lot about it here on this stream, and I have complained about it in my own life. I as well, similarly, very addicted to my phone. Very easy to pull away my attention from the things that are so important, especially when it comes to now. For years I have been the Emperor of Eternia, and even though I like to think that I put Eternia first as much as possible, and I try to develop our needs and the needs of my family, the needs of our community as much as possible. I still catch myself, just scrolling online or something, being like, "Oh, this is absolutely wasted time. This is useless." I do it for that dopamine hit. So I think that being the case, um, it's really important that we understand the connection between these things. That's kind of an overarching theme for us. Um, we're talking about creating a society that is a removal from these systems that are so harmful to us. And we talk about that economically, and we talk about that politically, and we talk about that culturally. The internet and the culture and the economics and everything about that is so intricately tied into all of those other systems. It's this big web. And so, I mean, literally with the World Wide Web, it's tough to break out of it if you are still so intimately connected to your phone. So I think that is a good idea. I know even High Envoy Fred has expressed some interest in pulling away from technology in his phone. I think all of us, to some degree, at one point or another in our lives, go, "Do I spend a little too much time on this?" And if you don't, you're probably in a great position. So I think that's something that we should maybe make more of a through line, right? That part of our culture is in trying to be people who use the technology that we have as a tool and an active user of it rather than a passive user of it. That we're trying to create systems that are separate and unique in identity, not only structurally, physically in the world, but also that are different and unique and separated in our connection to these online spheres of influence. Um, I think that's important, and I think other people would really relate to that.
That's a good way to think about it. Because my perspective on it is kind of more like isolate yourself from the internet as much as possible, just so you can escape the temptation. Because with my ADHD, it is incredibly difficult to act against those kinds of like simple temptations. Um, and so, just like removing myself from it as much as possible is just the easiest way to avoid it. But you were talking about using it for in the most positive way possible, and just focusing on using it for good rather than letting it kind of tear you down. That's a good way to look at it. Um, and I think in the long run, you're gonna have to be the one to find the best way to do that. Because with me, I I think I have to really plan to distance myself from my phone and internet even more in the future, and more of just kind of act as an assistant with you sometime on streams and attorney and posts sometimes. But I think my time on the internet needs to be cut short at some point. Um, I think it just requires some sort of plan. I thought about unfortunately what it has done to people of our age is our ability to navigate sorry, our ability to navigate the world and like cars and stuff and directions has been significantly eroded away by our cell phones, the GPS systems and stuff. So I still would require some sort of GPS. So I'd have to buy like a separate GPS for my car, so that I don't get lost on like longer trips. Um, and maybe that has like some music so you can still listen to your music in your car, because the days of like CDs and tapes in your car are that's long since passed. Um, so things like that, so you can still get some enjoyment. The things that you enjoy out of life. While you're driving around, you playing your music, but getting rid of the negative aspects to it. Not having constant access to it when you're at home. Um, so accessing the internet only via like my laptop. So I have to go to my laptop and open it up and log on each time I want to access the internet. And I'm not like taking my laptop out of the house. And so when I'm not at the house, when I'm not at the house, I'm just there in the moment, experiencing the world.
Yeah, and I think that's really smart. I was gonna say, one of the things that I've really liked as as a concept, but I never fully understood it. Um, in like futuristic depictions of the world, there's stuff like cyberpunk, which kind of feels like more what we get into with these like constant data transfer, constant screen
Neon
inundation.
lights everywhere.
Um,
Hmm.
Right, but then there's other, depictions of the future that kind of like Star Trek and Star Wars, where especially in Star Wars case, where there are screens, there are buttons, there are things, they're interacting with technology, but it's not like big and in your face. It's very minimalist, it's very small, it's very subtle, and people really have to go out of their way to engage with it. It doesn't just pop up in their face. And so I've always thought about that as maybe like it's weird that things like Star Wars being so technologically advanced don't have, more of the screens and more of the things that we see. But that could be for like cultural reasons, that could be for health reasons. I know it's a fictional story, but
Right.
that aesthetic seems really cool. And as I get older, I think that may be something that's worth looking into and developing is that active use of the technology, trying not to be, like you're saying, connected to just this one device that does everything, but
You
trying to use
way
these smaller tools.
like have to erode your like real world skills. But I was
Right.
thinking about what you were saying in a very meta sense. Like the reason those stories are the way they are is because those depictions of the futures were created in like the 60s and 70s, when they didn't know where technology was going to go in 40 years. Star Trek was created in the '60s. Star Wars in the '70s. Uh, those are a little bit older depictions of the future, even though Star Wars is technically in the past, which I kind of a silly thing about that.
That's true. That's true. But then, I mean, there's some like, oh gosh, what is it? Is it 1984? Is that the one where they have like the big screen?
Orwell, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's some stuff like that. I think you're right though. They didn't have an exact tuning on where the future would be, and I don't think we do either from this moment. But that is something to strive for. I think you know it, those little things like that, trying to pull more away from that all-encompassing technology, trying to use technology and still be advanced, but in ways that are less, like you said, eroding of our lives and our personal capabilities, that give us more of our personal time back and allow us to build our skill sets alongside the technology. Um, could be super valuable for our culture and who we are, and could show a really strong contrast between the average Eternian and the average other citizen of the world. It would be really cool to be able to, over, if you look 10 years in the future in Eternia or so, to be able to see that, to be able to film that contrast between
yeah.
this is how we operate versus the rest of the world.
Maybe we could find some way to help encourage that for others, and help guide them towards uh, uh, that more positive behaviors, if that's something they're interested in pursuing. Um, Lost my train of thought there. Oh, because yeah, tech. It's especially the newer generation. It's having an effect on their attention spans. I'm hearing a lot of like teachers these days uh, complain about the fact that the newer generation of children just aren't capable of even holding their attention long enough to learn the basics that they're supposed to in class time. Um, that's something that I think we have a lot of work ahead of us to help others avoid.
Oh, I completely agree. And it also, with that eroding of attention span and that struggle to reclaim our time even throughout the day, um, I have found myself in positions where, you get a weekend off or you get a few days off, whatever, and you get up in the morning and you're like, oh, I'm going to be real productive today and I'm going to do a bunch of stuff, and you spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, something like that on your phone or watching something, playing a game or whatever, and then you're like, oh damn. I was not productive today. The day's like almost over. Like it's moving a lot quicker than I thought. And I think that makes it that mindset of feeling like you, because of addiction, because of just the way that your day is structured or your life is structured around the technology, puts you in a position where it feels even harder to escape or push back or make a difference in your society. If you feel like, oh well, any time that I would try to use to better my community or to fight back against something that I think is wrong. I'm, losing constantly, and I couldn't find the time to squeeze it in. I think that goes toward and benefits all the people that don't want you to change that system. So maybe we can show that as a difference as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Maybe I can lead as example. And when some people, in the future year or 2 years, new people trying to get involved in person at Talon and Vine or something, I can tell them all about how I no longer have a smartphone, and I used a GPS in my car that just does GPS, for that to solve that problem, and I only use the internet on my laptop at home. So maybe I can tell them all about the way I've tried to cut down on that internet access to optimize its usefulness to me, while negating the negative effects as much as possible. Um, maybe that can encourage me to push harder on that improvement of my life, so that I can be an example to others.
I think that's a great idea. Both in a way to push yourself, giving you that external goal, and also for the people who come out to Talon and Vine. It also, really gives us a lot of layers to the things that we're doing that those potential recruits or just visitors to Talon and Vine will be able to see. People coming out and saying, "Oh, hey, come on out today. We're going to be picking blackberries, or we're going to be harvesting from our garden, or we're going to be taking care of our animals, or doing whatever." And at the same time, we are, these other people are on their phone, they're doing their things, and we're not. Um, when we set up our technology, we're doing things that involve it, we're not as attached to it. You can tell stories like that about what you do a little bit differently. We can show more of a um, understated use of our technology, and that, along with maybe some more visual aesthetic pieces of our culture around talent and Vine and stuff, I think start to build and evoke that feeling of, wow, we're like really in a different place. Like, I could see myself wanting this life more, going home, not, for 6, 8, 10 hours having used your phone much at all, coming home with, some blackberry preserves or something like that, fresh from the farm, and feeling like you had a good productive day.
Think about culture. That's the cultural aspect that could become
Yes.
part of the culture. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And then those people expanding on the culture, going home and talking to people about it and coming back to Talon and Vine with new ideas and saying, hey, I was talking to these people and they, brought this up, or they may want to do this.
Very good. Very
It's
good.
dope.
I think I'll be able to apply to future generations as well. Um, I a kid someday, and I think I'll be making sure that their internet access is pretty limited until they're get to a certain age in their life. As a child, that should be pretty heavily monitored. Um, and them having access to their own smartphones and stuff, that just doesn't need to be the case for children. I don't think children should have smartphones. That's just me, though. I know it's super common now. I think most elementary school age children have them, and I just don't get it. We did not have smartphones when we were in elementary school, um, but hey.
Yeah, I mean, there's the term like the Gen Alpha iPad kids and stuff. It's real tough. I agree with you. I think internet access and smartphone usage and stuff, especially for younger kids, should be really limited. Um, Not only because of the amount of, you know, misinformation and concerning stuff that they can get into, but also just because of bullying. Like there's a lot of kids need to be connected to their community and their friends and have access to that. And I think that's important. But also there is a lot of, I think, mental struggles that build up that at least I know I personally was like experiencing going through like middle school and high school, where like your friend groups just can get rough sometimes, and people can get really really down on themselves and get into bad mental spots, just because they are like a little bit too connected. People are a little bit too involved. That's a teenager thing in general, I think, but it's something made just a little bit worse by constantly being
And
connected
all
to
of
the internet.
are true for even younger children, elementary school age children too. In the addition to developmental issues that it causes to really young children as well. Um, they'll develop things like ADHD because their attention span has been eroded by this constant need for the quick content on the internet and whatnot. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. Issues like I have in children is going to be even more common as they're raised with smartphones in their hands.
Oh, absolutely. His Majesty Queen Bougie brought up a comment and said, I think I'd give my kids a phone. They could contact me and the police, but that's it, especially in school. I would agree. I think, it is important for, especially in the modern day, for kids to be able to contact authorities and to be able to reach out to you and stuff. I don't think phones in general are bad. I think it is this like hyper connectivity to the internet and to AI and to social media that can be a little much. Um, but yeah, I think there's a big gray area there. I think most people disagree with the extreme of like the iPad kid, where you're leaving your kid to be parented by the internet almost, and then the other side of it where you're in a completely Amish style situation where you don't let your kid see the internet or breathe on a piece of technology until they're 18. There's a
Not quite.
there's a good bit there that can be in between. I don't think it's one extreme or the other.
Monitored internet access.
Yes, yes, for sure. But yeah, I think that's a lot, and that gives us kind of looping the conversation back around to work. um, a building block for what it means to work in the Empire of Eternia. I think it means working in an environment that respects you, in an environment that, you know, you are considered an active agent and participant in the way you work and why you work and how you work. That your work goes toward a meaningful purpose and that you see the results of your work, that you can feel the benefits of the work that you do, and that you are a part of a community that is working to support whatever role that you're in, and that is a part of a culture that is trying to improve your direct life circumstances, and that your work is helping to improve the direct life circumstances, the quality of life of those around you. And I think individually, a lot of those things, corporations and local governments and things would say that they do or that they want to achieve.
Hmm.
But by creating this environment that we are, by developing this culture where we're trying to work more communally, where we're trying to have a tight knit identity, where we're trying to um, build structures that take our focus away from the blinding, overwhelming nature of the internet and the world at large and the doom scrolling aspects of that, and kind of focus more on our community and the things around us. I think that will help to set us apart in actually achieving that a little more effectively, and isolating and determining problems in those structures a lot faster when they come up.
For sure. And kind of communicating with one another, those of us that are already a part of Eternia, I think makes it easier to solve those kinds of problems. Um, we we really do get stronger and even smarter when we grow in population because we have all of these different ideas coming in, and people from people bring in new ideas, and maybe somebody come in a month from now and point out something that they're like, I think you've been doing this wrong the whole time, and we're like, nobody involved in it right now could saw that, but you know I think that's one of the reasons we are trying to do what we're going to do.
Oh, absolutely. Um, and we are doing it. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, but we're getting there. That being the case, I think we are uh, pretty well wrapped on the conversation. There's a lot to do in Eternia. There's a lot that's going to be updated fairly soon. Wright David mentioned a few pieces of media which I haven't actually put out yet on our social media that I'm looking to. One of which being us actually going out as a group, not only the members of government, myself, Wright David, High Envoy Fred, but also some guests that we had out to Talon and Vine who were helping us and who came out with us as well. We have some media in the future. We'll post some shorts on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, showing that stuff off. And of course, we're going to have more connection to our Discord server. Part of our big push recently and some of the discussions that we've had in our council meetings and in our discussions has been around trying to bring the community together more and doing more things. So this stream, in addition to talking about the important aspects of work and the problems that people are facing with it and what we can do as a micronation and as a new society to try to remedy some of those ills, is in actually testing this platform, our capabilities with our internet here to host a live stream like this, to be able to engage with you all in the comments, and eventually, if we have the bandwidth, the internet capabilities to do it, we may even push that a step further and try to host like community meetings where if again, internet permitting, we can have these calls like on Discord, so we can have maybe multiple people in and still try to live stream it out to YouTube. But if you are interested in that, and we are able to set that up in the future, please join our Discord server. There should be a link in the description. If you do join that Discord server, you can encounter a lot of different micronations in the micronational community. If you yourself are a micronationalist, but if you're somebody who just wants to become a part of the Empire of Aeternia or learn more about us and come in as a guest, you can do so as well. And you get access to a lot more connection to our community, to knowledgeable resources like Wright David and High Envoy Fred. And we're pulling that server together to try to connect more with the community and hopefully to you all. So that being the case, Right, David, do you have any more comments or things you'd like to discuss in our topic on work?
No, I think we've discussed it in some good depth. We've tied it back into what we're doing with Eternia, branched off to AI. I knew it was going to happen. It is related. It is related to some things, some issues going on at the workforce. But I think it's been a good conversation.
I agree. I agree. And I'm grateful for your time today. It's been great. I know we haven't, as a government, been able to get out in front of the public enough and discuss as a group what it is that we're doing, to particularly show off your skill set and what you have been hard at work on here at Talon and Vine Farm, besides the occasional short that shows a snippet into that. And I'd really like to bring High Envoy Fred in when he has the ability to showcase some of those aspects of our culture and our outreach as well. So we will be continuing these in the future. There will be more Imperial Government live streams to come. And again, if you are interested in that, join us on our Discord. Keep up with us. Join us on our other social media. And until then, Eternia forever.
Eternia forever.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you so
Y'all
much.
have a good day. Yeah, of course. See you right, David.